For interviews on educational technology and for a list of our educational technology workshops, please visit www.edtechlive.com. And for discounted Dell computers, please visit our sponsor, www.k12computers.com. Hi, this is Steve Hargadon, and welcome to EdTech Live. Today's Wednesday, April 12th, and my guest is Gina Bianchini, the CEO and co-founder of Ning. Ning is a sort of do-it-yourself social networking site. Is that what you would call it, Gina?
Yeah, I would basically call it a free and easy way to create your own social network for anything.
Can you give us an idea of how Ning started?
Sure. So my co-founder Mark and I started talking about what became Ning in the summer of 2004. And we started it with a really simple idea, which was, what if everyone had the opportunity to create their own social networks for anything? And, at the time, it wasn't sort of the right term in terms of social networks. We called them, social web applications. But it was when we started building out this platform for making it really easy for people to create their own social networks and then, edit them in any way that they would like. And it's pretty much we've just spent the last 2.5 years executing on the vision that we originally had for Ning, and really, just the ability to put in the hands of everyone. I'm not a developer, and I was seeing all of the great stuff that my developer friends could actually do, and I said, I want to do those things. So a lot of what Ning is today is our desire to put in the hands of everyone the ability to really create something special.
So what was it that you were seeing in social networks or social web applications that you felt was worth putting the time into to create the product?
It was what people fundamentally wanted to do online. So what you pretty much saw from even the early ancestors of the web was that people wanted to connect. They wanted to communicate. They wanted to find each other and build relationships. And we actually were looking at things like eBay or Craigslist or Classmates.com, certainly a lot of the early discussion boards, for our inspiration, and it gave us tremendous confidence in moving forward with Ning that what people fundamentally want to do online is communicate and to find each other. While we were building Ning out, all of the sort of social software, social networking kind of happened around us. So, it was really exciting from our perspective that we talk about it internally. It looks like we picked the right horse, but it's the right horse because it's fundamentally what people want to do online.
When you started Ning, what's changed most dramatically from your initial conception of what it would be like to what it currently is?
Probably how little it did change. This is very much what we wanted to build, and we certainly put our heads down and built it. What's been the most surprising thing is the fact that the initial idea that we had was inclusive enough that we were able to spend the last 2.5 years without, really very many, if any, dramatic shifts in strategy, what we set out to do and what we set out to build. That actually is for an entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, that's actually pretty rare. So,
are you watching any Ning social networks that you think are really happening, where you feel like it's really tapped into something that didn't exist before for them, and it's gone like crazy? Is 1,000 members in Library 2.0 the pinnacle, or are there groups that have gotten even more?
Well, the Dallas Mavericks social network has gotten more. They're, in definitely north of 1,000 people at this point. But I think that the thing that has been the coolest, most exciting thing from my perspective is just the diversity, the sheer diversity of these networks. We get asked a lot, do you guys have a specific target market or a specific target user or things like that? And the answer is no. I mean, we have everybody from Bill Drew, who created Library 2.0, to, the Dallas Mavericks, to, my friend Courtney, who has a network for chicks who click, or creative women networking. And just the range and the use of different social networks on Ning has just been, I would say, the thing that has been the most profound, and certainly was something that we hoped for, but to see it in action has just been phenomenal.
I've wondered if organizations that already have a high level of social connectivity are good candidates for Ning, or if it's organizations that have never had the opportunity to network that become the greatest potential.
I think it's a combination of both. One of the things that I think we're not necessarily looking for is to go out to, every Yahoo group, for example, and find really specific hooks into Yahoo groups to make the migration really easy to Ning. That certainly is something that would be of value, but at the same time, a lot of those Yahoo groups have been created, in the late 90s, and the likelihood that they're exploring and experimenting with a lot of new technologies is not necessarily the case. That's not to knock anybody using a Yahoo group. It's just, I think that's for people who are very used to that, it's a really good solution. I think where we've seen a lot of interest has been in places like people who have had MySpace groups and who feel that a single page on MySpace for all the things that they want to do with their groups is just simply not enough. They don't have to lose that connection to their MySpace groups because of all the embeddable videos and photo slideshows that we offer and things along those lines, but it's more of an extension or augmentation of what they've started to do in the construct of larger social networks.
Are groups like fraternities signing up?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen everything from fraternities, sororities, to a lot of class reunions. We actually had a guy who's in his 80s create a social network on Ning for his 50th anniversary or reunion, his 50th reunion would be the right term, for his dental school, his graduate program to become a dentist.
Are there many of them left?
That's what's interesting. It's private, so I don't actually know what is exactly going on in there. But I was really impressed that he was able to dive in and in a few minutes be up and running with his social network.
I remember the first time I got an email from an old college roommate, and I do remember how exciting that was. And it was, for several days I kind of floated around, being amazed at the ability to actually reconnect with somebody. And I've really liked the aspect of Ning that allows for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience in using the tools of the web to come in and feel comfortable and begin to get feedback and begin to be part of the dialogue. I didn't feel that way in Facebook, and I didn't get very far in MySpace. What have you looked at in terms of the other existing social networks and said that you wanted to do a little bit differently?
The most important thing for us has been the ability to give other people the opportunity. I mean, we sort of have a saying inside the office, which is, it's not about us, it's about you. We want people to create their own worlds, not join someone else's world. And that's been very important to us. And so the things that are unique to Ning are the places where we basically said, you know what, you don't have to have Ning's logo all over the place. In fact, we don't want you to promote Ning as much as we want you to promote your social network. And if you are promoting your social network, then everybody wins. But we think that there are ways to build, a really viable, good business while empowering people to create their own worlds and to give them lots and lots of different options so that they can make their social network the exact right, perfect thing for them.
I know that when I started Classroom 2.0, that some of the existing educational bloggers who had developed an audience in the blogosphere and who were used to posting on a blog and going and having comments and using an aggregator or a reader felt that the social network was a little too easy. I think there was some discomfort because they felt like people are coming in and they don't have to go through all the work that they looked back on and felt had been so valuable in their growth. But I've sort of felt as though that was a great strength of Ning, that educators could come in who really weren't in a position to take 9 months to develop a voice in the blogosphere and become engaged in conversations. Is that what you had hoped for?
Absolutely. I think anytime people have gone through that type of basic training, those basic training exercises in the same way that people in the military are like, I went through basic training, you should go through it as well. I just think that the easier that you make things, the more interesting ideas can be nurtured and fostered, and more people can contribute to the conversation. And I view that as something that is very, very powerful. And, if I had my choice between, making something that was easy versus something that, had a little bit more of a learning curve, I would always choose something that's easy because it allows more and more people to contribute and participate. I view that as a very good democratic thing.
I can see where people would also feel as though they might want to graduate from Ning to writing in their own blog. But what's interesting about that for me is that I can actually imagine both happening and coexisting pretty well.
Yeah, well, the other thing that we're actually going to be doing, and what a couple of the guys here who have had blogs, actually Kyle Ford has a what started off as his website, houseofkyle.com, in the 90s, in the mid 90s, when the web first sort of emerged, then became a blogger blog, and has just recently moved over to creating and using Ning. Now, granted, he works here, but what he likes about it is the fact that he can have photos and videos and more people with identities in House of Kyle, but at the same time, Ning is flexible enough to make it his stuff is front and center. So on the homepage of his House of Kyle Ning social network, it has his blogger blog being pulled in, and it's actually he's transitioning that over. It has his photos, his videos. It has everything integrated and branded for House of Kyle, which is something that, even with the best blogging software that's out there, that's, very customizable, but you can't also then have branded videos without necessarily pulling in, a video platform from somewhere else. It's the ability to bring all these different types of social media together into, an integrated experience is very, very powerful. I would also add that one of the things we're going to be coming out with, based on people asking us for us, which is great, is the ability to have members only who can contribute, or only members can contribute, but that the network is public. So that means everybody can read it, but only certain people can write and participate in the conversation. And that's going to be a really good thing for individuals who want to have, a platform and an application that is really for their voice only, but to be able to do that across different media types.
That makes a lot of sense. Right now, as it stands, if somebody's not a member of a site, can they see what's going on in the site?
No, unless I shouldn't jump to that answer. If it's a public network where the network creator has said, I want everybody to be able to see everything without registering, then yes, they can see that. There are varying levels of privacy, though. There's the option, if it's a public network, where you only show the homepage unless the person has registered or signed in. There's also, you only see the sign-in page or the sign-up page until the person signs in. And then if you want, you can also make it a members-only network where only the members can participate and see the content. And we'll continue to add more and more sort of levels of granularity in terms of privacy going forward.
Well, I have a good list here of feature sets that I would like to ask you if you're considering. Can we do a rapid fire sort
Absolutely.
of yes, no, and you can tell me? One would
Sure.
certainly be integrating an existing blog into your blog in Ning.
Yep, we can do that. You can do that today through an RSS reader, and then you can also RSS out your Ning blog as well.
Well, what I would like to be able to do is to take my existing blog and just have it be my blog as a member in Ning.
Sure.
And I can put an RSS feed, but I can't as an individual member. I don't think I can I put an RSS feed on my member page?
Yeah.
But that only posts on my member page. It's not going to appear anywhere else in the network. Or will it?
No, but then you as the network creator can actually pull it into the homepage as
well. Right. If I'm the network creator, I can do that.
Right.
But if I'm just a member in a network, I don't really have any.
Then it would only be on your network page, correct?
Because what I notice a lot of people are doing is they're just cross-posting.
Mm-hmm.
They're posting in their outside blog, and then they're also posting on the Ning blog.
Right.
Okay. What about a wiki?
That is something that we are going to be offering hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, certainly I think you'd get some real takers in our arena because
Sure.
we're focused on a particular theme and content. The refinement aspect of a wiki, being able to collect and refine that data, would be helpful.
Yep.
We actually created a separate wiki outside of the Ning network.
Got it. Yep.
Okay, what about a live chat module?
It's coming.
Oh, good. How soon?
Probably in the same time frame. So it's definitely going to be here. The things that are most important to us next are groups, so that you can have groups within your social network, a music player / podcast player, so that you can pull in interesting audio content. Additionally, then from there, a calendar of events, and ultimately adding things like Evite functionality to that. As well as a new activity dashboard so people can really quickly see what's happening on a network from all over the network. And so those are the things that I would sort of call out as our top priorities in the next 2 months. And then from there, I should actually also add wiki pages. And then from there, chat presence so that you can see who's online, for example, at any given time. Those kinds of things are definitely next up after that.
That's a great list. It's going to be hard for people to hear this and not get excited.
Well, I have to say I can understand how they're feeling. I'm really excited about the things we have coming down the pipe.
What about integrating Skype? Have you talked about that at all?
We have not, but it's certainly something that we can explore. And the other thing I would just add is, at any point in time, if any of your members are developers that have some level of comfort with PHP, which is a development language, you can actually request a copy of your source code running your social network and make some of these integration of new features happen sooner rather than later. So Skype, if they offer APIs, which I believe they do, all we would be doing is the same thing that you could do by adding in those APIs to the social networking application.
Well, we may leave that for someone else, but it's a great idea.
I completely respect that.
Okay, one of the pieces of feedback that I'm getting is that it's very hard for people to follow the conversation. And let me preface that by saying a lot of the people who are coming into our network are people who've watched the edublogosphere, or the educational bloggers, and have been shy about participating. And it's been really fun to watch them come in and begin to get a little bit of voice. And as a side note, you can imagine that educators who are used to judging others based on their writing and their thought processes are shy about exposing themselves if they haven't done so before. So what I love about Ning is that it is inviting in that way. But they're coming in and they don't know really a whole lot about RSS. And so they have a hard time knowing how to follow the conversations. So what advice are you giving people who are new? Do they need to get a reader and just...
Well, it depends on what you mean. So, the basic network homepage is designed so that there's the latest conversations happening, whether it's, interesting people who are doing things, whether it's the most recent discussion threads, whether it's the most recent blog posts, photos, videos, obviously also sort of latest or most popular, and we'll offer a lot more options along the lines of what is displayed and how it's displayed on the homepage. But the best place to always start, in my opinion, is the homepage. And, being able to look at some of what's happening in the discussion forum, for example. We'll be offering as of Tuesday, I believe, might be Wednesday, the ability to see the discussions with the latest entries, and those will pop to the top of the list. So, I think that there are certainly ways to navigate it without having to set up an RSS reader. If there are specific things that you're following or the specific things that you're interested in, obviously using RSS is a good way of doing that. But, for me, it's much more fun. I spend quite a bit of time on networkcreators.ning.com. I just basically see what's going on the homepage. I check out the all discussions page of the discussion forums, and certainly, go to my page a fair amount to add blog posts and things along those lines.
Well, I think the very strength of Ning becomes the biggest hurdle here, because what I've noticed is that people within our network are now creating their own networks. Mm-hmm. And so I'm now at the point where I've had to say I can't follow every Ning network that I'm being invited to. I can't go in. But I can do it using an aggregator, a reader. Yeah. And, so then some of the feedback I've been getting is that it's a little hard to follow the conversations in a reader because you don't have the title of the original forum post to kind of associate it with a thread.
That's changing, by the way. We're fixing that.
Well, you've answered about half the ones on my list already. I'll let you know that. Let me go down through a couple of others. What about putting some kind of a text box to describe an RSS feed or a box that you place on the page? Meaning to give a little bit of instruction.
On the I don't understand.
So let's say I decide to put an RSS feed on the front page of the network. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to put a little bit of instruction before that, or a little bit of information. Right. Like, this is a feed. If you want your material to appear here, tag your external blog posts with this tag.
Right. You can do that today.
Oh, you can?
Yeah. So when you're on the features page, where you get to choose the features for your social network as a network creator, mm-hmm. you can pull in as many of the HTML text boxes as you want. And so what you could do is anytime you have a RSS reader, just pull in a text box above it. And then when you go to your network's homepage, as a network creator, you'll see the edit button of that box. And you just open the box and instruct away.
Oh, that's a good idea. And we've noticed that at least the feeds that we're doing, they're showing some HTML code when they display. Are others having that same problem?
They shouldn't be. They shouldn't be doing that.
I'll get on the development.
Yeah, follow up with me.
Yeah, we don't have to spend our time talking about that. Okay, what about a better inviting tool for email? I noticed that when I went to Facebook, it was really easy to invite tons of people, but I had a harder time inviting people in Ning. Have you looked at that at all?
What was the difference from your perspective?
I'm stretching here to remember, but as I recall, I could see all of my contacts and very quickly select them all in Facebook, but in Ning, I had to bring them in first to Ning, and then did I have to invite them after that?
Yeah, and the reason we actually do that is because we make the assumption that, of all of your Yahoo contacts, for example, you might not want to invite every single one of them to your Classroom 2.0. And so we basically have it set up so that it is easy to import your contacts from other places, and then you can quickly just go through and click on them in your address book to be able to pre-populate the invitation page. But I'm certainly happy to look at Facebook and how they do it, and certainly if you have any other suggestions for how we can make it easier, we're constantly looking at how do we make it as seamless and as easy as possible to get new members into your social network.
It seemed to me to be critically sort of a critical piece because it was so easy in Facebook to bring people in. I thought this just exponentially increases the exposure.
Sure.
Okay, one question I'm getting all the time is, what in the world are friends for?
So this is certainly something that is really intuitive to people and folks who have been on MySpace or Facebook for a long time. People who are discovering social networks for the first time definitely look at friends and say, well, why do I need those? So it's two things. One is there are privacy settings on photos and videos and blog posts so that only your friends can see them. And especially as networks get larger and larger, who your friends are is more and more relevant. It's very fair to say that, well, for a private social network, shouldn't everyone be my friend? I mean, if we only have 20 members, and why wouldn't they just be my friends? You can always pull out. Actually, that's not true. You can pull out the module of members on the home page if that's not relevant to your network. But the concept of friends is something that comes with your network. So, it depends. It depends on what the purpose of it is. It may not be as relevant for Classroom 2.0 as it might be for something like the Dallas Mavericks that is, so big at this point and continuing to get bigger, and it's really sort of a way of privacy, basically having granular privacy levels, but also it's just sort of a fun thing to do where it's like, oh, hey, I just made this person my friend. It's almost like a social currency.
Well, okay, so that really helped me because I had not thought about the video and photo aspect of it, and I can see where you may say, these photos I only want to be seen by my friends. I'm going to put up some personal photos that are different than photos that relate to Classroom 2.0.
Right.
Some feedback I've been getting is people would really like to be able to sort the members and or their friends geographically.
Yep, that's something that one of the areas that we look at internally and say, gosh, it's not really that good right now, and we're going to make it a lot better is search. So searching by different, hobbies, for example, and being able to find members based on, other types of connections is incredibly important to us. It's actually a pretty complex problem and something that, we'll work on for probably the next month and then roll it out.
Yeah, I noticed that if I search for a first name, it almost never works. Maybe never works, but if I search by last name, it works. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, it's really, it's something that we look at and we just go, oh my gosh, that is certainly an area that we can get a lot better in.
So we don't need to dwell on that.
It's fine, warts and all.
My final one, when I try and feature photos, it feels like I have to drill down to every individual photo, and I'd love to have a sheet where I can see all of the photos, or in a way, and then just select the ones that are going to get featured.
That's something we can add.
I didn't want you to feel like you're on the hook.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so what communities do you belong to?
Let's see. I have been graciously invited to participate in EB Friends, which I actually have a really good time in. The people there are incredibly nice. EB is a very rare skin condition that happens typically at birth or in childhood, and it's a really great place to go and check out. The Pez Heads have been really nice in inviting me in. In fact, Richie, who runs MySpace for PezHeads.com, which is the Pez Heads network on Ning, just sent me a bunch of Pez Heads containers, and now they're on my desk. So I have to actually have to finish taking some photos. My camera, my battery died, but so I have my Pez Heads on my desk right now, which I'm really excited about. Additionally, I spend a lot of time on network creators, and that's probably where I spend the majority of my time. Library 2.0, I actually think that they have some incredibly interesting conversations going on at any point in time. And I also really enjoyed this one small network called, I think it's Auditors Theory, or I'll have to find the link, but it's basically a group of guys that have been discussing movies for what seems like maybe the last 15 years together, 10 or 15 years together, and it's just a really good group, and it's really fun to go there and talk about movies.
It's pretty amazing to think of the kinds of associations that previously you would not have been able to build a network around, but now that you could. Individual movies.
Yep.
one that occurred to me was geographical neighborhoods.
Right.
Where constantly, did anybody know that there was a robbery in the neighborhood? All
Right.
the kind of communication you've always wished for but could never have.
Yep. One of the things we've actually seen is an apartment building in Chicago created a network for just that apartment building.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I mean,
Yeah.
I can see a ton of applications in that way. And I can also see then, by virtue of belonging to many networks, the need to be able to kind of see that from a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how you would do that, but to be able to say, I belong to 20 networks or 25 networks, so I can't actually go to each one individually.
Right. So, well, you can actually go to each one individually today. You can see them on your Ning ID panel from the Ning bar at the top of any page. So when you drop down that panel, you'll see all of your friends across Ning, as well as over on the right-hand side, it's all the networks that you're using. Additionally, we will roll out in probably about 3 weeks the ability to see your networks that you're using on the Ning, the Ning homepage. Basically, when you click to My Networks, you'll be able to see all the networks you're using. Right now, that actually, My Networks means networks I've created, which is a little silly, but it's one of the things with software is that you're constantly trading off things that you would love to do for things that you think are absolutely critical to do. And there were a lot of things that were absolutely critical to do that came ahead of that. But now we're getting to it, and we're really excited about it.
Well, and I can see that. But I didn't actually mean literally going to each network. I just meant that I wouldn't have the time.
Mm-hmm.
That I may want to join my apartment complex network, but I just want to be able to get a feed of the material that's coming from them.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things we want to come out with shortly.
That to me is one of the weaknesses of Facebook, which is I can join a group in Facebook, but I actually have to go to the group to be informed of anything that takes place there, and so I just don't.
Right.
So what other Web 2.0 tools do you use individually? What's high on your radar of the thousands of things we can do with Web 2.0? What excites you, aside from Ning?
Sure. I spend a lot of my time on Ning, and a lot of what's in Ning are from things that I thought were just really important and really critical for people communicating and connecting with each other. I always have fun when I go to this really great site called extratasty.com, which is a community around drink recipes. And it's just fun, and it's kitschy, and it's got great drink recipes. And I don't actually drink that much, but it's just fun to see the creativity of what people are doing there. And it kind of feels like you're going to a great party. Additionally, I think Meebo is a phenomenal technology. I think just the ability to quickly get up and running on a web page with whatever IM client that you use is really, really cool. Let me see, what else do I use? Certainly the old standbys of Flickr and YouTube are in my repertoire.
Are you a Firefox user?
I am a Firefox user.
Do you use add-ons?
I do. But the ones that I use probably the one I use the most is the Google search box in Firefox. Additionally, I love just some of the things that you can do that they started off as add-ons, and then they built into Firefox around being able to double-click to close a tab and offer or basically copy and show a tab in the same page in a new tab. Sorry, the afternoon is getting to me. But things like that I just think are really fun.
What kind of challenges does Ning face at this time? Is there a viable model for growth? Are you feeling like you're on track?
Absolutely. In fact, I think we're certainly exceeding our own expectations. I would say the biggest challenge is just to meet our own internal goals of how rapidly we want to roll out new features. And, we have a very aggressive, plan for, how fast we can hear and integrate and in turn roll out new things people, have told us that they wanted. We think that that's really a key critical success factor, is that, speed of, I would say, meaningful features and meaningful new meaningful things that people can take advantage of. Social networking a lot is the new, and what that form of new can be new content, new people, new chatters or comments on your pages, the ability to change things all the time. And we want to continue to feed that from a product perspective or from a feature perspective, and that's our number one goal. And we've been executing very nicely against it, but it's certainly something that we've set our expectations of ourselves very, very high. And when you do that, you are always part opportunity and part challenge.
Is the advertising model working?
Yes. So is the premium services model. So yeah, no, we're seeing very strong growth both in terms of premium services as well as advertising. There's a lot more we can do with both of those. That's not a top priority for us right now, because really what we're focused in on is adding new features for people to take advantage of. That's our most important thing for certainly what we're doing in the next year.
So with 300 and some odd members, we paid for the $20 and added our own Google code in. Mm-hmm. And the ads weren't really great. I mean, they're just Google ads. They don't always relate. And I would say that sort of best case scenario, we were making $1 or $2 a day, covering the $20 and making $1 or $2. So then we decided we would put in our own ad, and put in a regular sort of box ad that advertised our computer company. And what was interesting was there is a group of people who just ignore the Google ads and almost don't see them. Mm-hmm. But when you have a regular ad, feel like it changes the flavor of the site.
Yeah. There's a lot of research on this, actually.
What does the research say?
It says exactly what you just said, which is people, AdSense is not as effective as the ability to do sponsorships or other type of sort of more interesting, more integrated advertising.
Well, we're trying to decide. Most people are supportive of our actually placing an ad in the site, but there is a group that's saying we don't. It turns me off from actually going to the site to see a more corporate ad. And my guess is that's just a tricky area.
I think it is. And I also think that it really depends on your network and on your members and what's important to your group.
Well, so what's your background, Gina? What brought you to Ning?
Sure. So this is my second company that I co-founded, the first one that I'm running.
So not everybody gets to start a company with Mark Andreessen.
So Mark sat on the board of my last company that was that we incubated out of Sequoia, that was really around advertising and marketing tracking, measurement, and optimization. And we ended up selling that to a large Japanese advertising agency called Dentsu. And then about, I would say, 7 or 8 months after that, Mark and I started Ning together. So my background is I'm actually probably one of 5 people who grew up in Cupertino and who stayed out here in Silicon Valley, doing some pretty interesting stuff, hopefully. But that's my background. I'm an entrepreneur.
Gina, is there anything about Ning that you think people would like to know that I haven't asked you?
No, I mean, what's really fun about this conversation has been that you guys are using it. So this is fun and really fantastic feedback for us in terms of what is working, what we can be doing better, and what you guys are looking for out of your social network on Ning.
Well, you've done a great job. I think I get complimented pretty regularly about it, and I just defer to you guys and say, I just had the idea to do a Ning site on this topic. I didn't actually build the network. I try and be clear about that, but people are really excited about it.
Well, that's great. That certainly makes this worthwhile from my perspective.
I'm really glad. Thanks so much for spending time with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.